So once again, without further ado, we have the one of the best medical doctors, of course, a researcher na hindi lang basta word na researcher, but he is heavily involved in the conduct of research. So medical doctor slash practitioner slash researcher slash medical educators. He is also teaching in the College of Medicine. So he has been involved in academia. Kasi iba yung physician, iba yung academician.
Yes.
Ibang role noon. So ako, ang mga in-invite ko rito, mga hindi lang basta physician but also academician. And if Doc Ome would still give some introduction of himself, I will give him time to do so. But I have to say sorry if kung nagkaroon tayo ng konting adjustment because I need to attend to an urgent meeting later this afternoon at 2 p.m. So, dapat 1 p.m. pa tayo si Doc Ome, biglang naligo at biglang nagbihis.
Ayun nga. Hindi kasi nagte-telemedicine pa ako. So, tapos naman na, okay lang. Sabi ko, sige sir, we can go ahead.
Maraming salamat po, Doc Ome, sa iyong pangunawa. So, without further ado, the screen sharing is now open, Doc Ome. If you have a PowerPoint, If you have a PowerPoint presentation, you may share your screen. And of course, I will now give you the floor. Ang alam ko sa iyo, Doc Ome, very short, pero very meaty naman ang iyong discussion because you only discuss those important aspect of the topic that is given to you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Romel Punong Bayan. Ay, napakadami palang letter sa dulo. RMT, MD, MBA. MBA ka rin pala?
Yes, sir.
FPC.
Requirements kasi yan, sir. Requirements for managerial position sa government.
Ganun ba? Okay. O di sige. Ayun.
Sorry.
FDCP, DPComs, hindi ko alam yung mga niya. Yung F alam
Yes, sir. Ako na lang. Hindi naman importante yan, sir. Importante yung lecture natin for today.
Alright, so Doc Ome, you now have the platform for your sharing of your intelligence this morning with our MAED students.
So good morning. Thank you, Sir Alvin, for inviting me over. So yung topic na inassign sa akin ni Dr. Alvin is yung research ethics. So tama nga yung sinabi ni Sir kanina na dati wala namang proper conduct of research. Ngayon kasi due to the advancing science, so meron na rin tayong ethics na sinusunod regarding yung ating writing of a scientific paper. So my objectives of this learning module is to discuss the history of ethics in medical research, to discuss the components of ethics in medical research, and discuss operational guidance. So I will walk you through some critical points in the writing of your scientific paper. So disclosure, kung meron mang conflict, recipient kasi ako ng DOH PCHRD grants. Tapos ngayon, ongoing ako gumagawa ng ating clinical practice guidelines for COVID-19. And definitely, I'm not a trained or licensed or certified bioethicist. I'm just a researcher just like you. So let's start. So if you look at Merriam-Webster, ano bang sinasabi nila about ethics? So ang sabi sa ethics, number one, it's a plural or singular. So pwede natin siyang gamitin as a plural form or a singular form. Kaya hindi natin siya ginagamit as ethic, di ba? So the discipline dealing with what is good and bad. So number two, ito yung mas importante sa atin, set of moral principle, a theory of or system of moral values. And the other one, yung right after it, often itong principles of conduct governing an individual or group. At this point, yung group or individual are us, yung mga researchers. So technically, if we look at it, ito yung tinatawag na GMRC natin in writing. So ethics can touch multiple discipline. Pwede siya sa rules and regulation. This one, pwede siyang values of certain group or institution. Nandito tayo sa blue, sa research, moral principle, ethical practices, and rules of conduct. So makikita nyo, hindi lang research yung may ethics. Definitely, many of our discipline in the education practice, makita natin na maraming ethical guidelines. Kasi nga, we have to be standardized and we have to consider not only the students or the stakeholders, kasama rin syempre tayo as the researcher or the teacher. So the history of ethics, actually itong kinuha kong history ng ethics, yung more recent lang at saka yung more practical sa use natin. So it started in 1964, ito in Finland, when WMA or the World Medical Association had an assembly in Helsinki, kaya itinawag itong Helsinki Proclamation. Then eventually, further down, makita nyo na inamend lang siya. So in-update lang siya depending on the needs and changes in the environment. Actually, before this proclamation in Helsinki, may mas nauna pa, pero feeling ko hindi naman masyado ng importante sa atin yun. Yung about, sa time pa ng mga Nazi, yung mga sa yung rule ng Nazi. So tingin ko mas importante na lang sa atin ito as an educator and a researcher, yung WMA General Assembly Helsinki Declaration. Then it is composed, yung Declaration of Helsinki, ito kasi yung parang Bible natin for medical research involving human studies. Hindi ko na muna sinama yung mga animals kasi siguro most of us naman, ang ginagamitan natin ng research is using subjects, human subjects. So it composed of 37 provision. Ito yung mga breakdown ng kanilang chapter, ika nga. The chapters of or the provisions of the Declaration of Helsinki. At this point, I would like to apologize kasi medyo busy yung mga slide kasi these are provisions, so I cannot delete or revise any of them. I'll just give highlights to the important points of the provision kasi this is a law, di ba? So mahirap siyang iputol-putulin so that you can look at the whole picture. Hindi kasi pwedeng if you look at the law, di ba? Although we are not lawyers here, hindi natin pwedeng tanggal-tanggalin yung mga certain statement dun sa ating proclamation. So it composed of the preamble, the general principle, risk, burden, and benefit. Sama din dito yung vulnerable groups and individuals, the scientific requirements for research protocol. Ito yung importante rin, yung Research Ethics Committee or REC, privacy and confidentiality, informed consent, the use of placebo when you're doing a human trial, so using a placebo, even after your trial, yung tinatawag na post-trial provision, and your registration and publication of your works, and unproven, even those who are, which are unproven intervention in clinical practice should be made very ethical. So let's start. So sa general principle, so provision number 3, the WMA or yung ating tinatawag na declaration binds the physician with words, the health of my patient will be my first consideration. So as always, we always look at the consideration of our patient. So yung mga subjects natin are at most consideration. Furthermore, a physician shall act in the patient's best interest when providing medical care. So in replacement, for example, hindi naman tayo lahat na researcher or medical professional, medical doctors, yung author or yung team na gagawa ng research, they will be the one yung tinatawag na physician. They will replace the physician. So the researcher shall act in the patient's best interest when providing medical care. So general principle number 4, it is the duty of the physician to promote and safeguard the health. So importante talaga safeguard. So dapat daw bantayan natin yung health, well-being, and rights of the patient. So basically, yung general principle is about protecting our subjects, specifically human subjects kasi ang dinidil natin eh. So number 6, general principle is the primary purpose of medical research is involving human is to understand causes, development, and effects of diseases and improve preventive, diagnostic, and therapeutic intervention. Hindi naman tayo kasi nagre-research lang for the sake of making a research, di ba? After all, yung culmination ng research is how you will affect those who are the subjects. For example, I'm doing a research about hypertensives. So dapat at the end of the study, ang magbe-benefit dito are the hypertensive patients. So even the best proven intervention must be evaluated continually through research for their safety, effectiveness, efficiency, accessibility, and quality. So these are the standards na kailangan natin kahit na establish na yung drug, yung diagnostic test, or yung protocol, kailangan pa rin natin silang i-update. So general principle number 9, it is the duty of the physician or yung ating researchers who are involved in the research to protect the life, health, dignity, integrity, right to self-determination, specifically yung privacy and confidentiality. So yun yung pinaka-importante. That's why I think you have a separate session for Data Privacy Act. So pwede ko kayong ipa-provide or bigyan ng link. Pwede nyo namang i-self magbasahin yung laman ng data privacy law specifically sa Philippines. So the responsibility for the protection of research subjects must always rest with the physician or the other healthcare professionals and never with the subject. So kahit na nag-consent yung patient ninyo or yung subject ninyo regarding your research, at the end of the day, kayo pa rin yung nakakaalam what's best for the subject. So kasi hindi naman lahat ng subject alam yung pwedeng mangyari with the research 100%. So it is still, even with the consent, your responsibility to check safety of your subjects. So number 10, physicians must consider the ethical. So yun nga, kaya nga tayo nag-aaral ng ethics di ba? Ethical and legal and regulatory norms and standards for research involving human subjects in their own countries. Kaya nga sabi ko, check din natin yung ating local guidelines. Eventually, at the end of this lecture, papakita ko naman sa inyo kung ano yung government agency that is responsible for checking integrity and standards of our research paper. So as well as the applicable international norms and standards. So no national or international ethical or legal regulatory requirements should reduce or eliminate any of the protection. So kahit na meron kayong local law or provision about certain provision in this Helsinki Declaration, ang dapat sundin pa rin natin is yung ating Helsinki Declaration kasi this is a decision made by several world leaders, di ba? Kaya nga World Medical Association. So number 11, medical research should be conducted in a manner that minimizes even the environment, di ba? So hindi lang yung patient or yung subject yung concern natin, as well as the environment. So general principle number 12, medical research involving human subjects must be conducted only by individuals with appropriate ethical standards and scientific education, training, and qualification. Later on, makikita natin, papakita ko sa inyo ano yung mga minimum requirements or qualification para makapag-enter tayo ng isang human trial. Then research on patient on healthy volunteers requires a supervision of a competent and a qualified physician. Especially if it's a drug, it's a health intervention, dapat talaga merong on-board na medical doctor. Appropriate compensation. So even yung payment, di ba? Hindi natin sinasabi na luxurious o lucrative. Ang sinasabi lang is appropriate compensation and treatment for subjects who are harmed. So meron talagang may mga studies talaga na pwedeng magkaroon ng harm sa patient. So as early as at the start of the study, dapat maliwanag na there will be compensation granted for those who will be injured or harmed during the procedure. Pero as much as possible, i-minimize natin or kung pwedeng zero yung harm or yung bad effects dun sa ating subject. So we'll go now to the next chapter, which is the risk, the burden, and the benefit. Remember what we always teach everyone who is doing research. We always weigh the benefits versus risk. Diba? So lagi tayong ganon. Risk-benefit ratio. Yun ang laging tinitingnan natin. So provision number 16, in medical practice and in medical research, most interventions involve risk and burdens. However, for the medical research involving human, may only be conducted if the importance of the objective outweighs the risk. So kung mas malaki talaga yung benefit kesa sa risk, pwedeng i-go. Pero kung sobrang laki ng risk like death, syempre pag-uusapan natin mabuti yan as ethical board kung itutuloy natin yung trial. Even though ang ating makikitang adverse outcome will be death or severe sickness. So still on risk, burden, and benefit, provision number 17, all medical research involving human subjects must be preceded by careful assessment and predictable risk. So even at the start, kaya nga tayo may tinatawag na inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, kasi that early, alam na natin na pag diabetic, hindi natin pwedeng isama kasi pwedeng maging harmful. Kapag meron siyang high blood or hypertension, wag na natin siya isama kasi yung trial natin pwedeng tumaas lalo yung BP niya. So, kaya tayo may mga inclusion and exclusion criteria kasi napipredict na natin yung foreseeable risk. So, importante ma-qualify, ma-quantify na natin yung risk before pa natin enroll yung ating mga subjects. These measures to minimize the risk must be implemented. The risk must be continuously monitored. So, ibig sabihin, kahit na na-screen na natin sila during, while in the interim of the trial, dapat sine-check nyo pa rin from time to time kung meron tayong nakikitang additional risk. Remember, this is a clinical trial. Everything can be new. So this could be a new side effect. This could be a new occurrence. This could be a new symptom. So kailangan iti-take note pa rin natin. Hindi porket nakapasok na sila dun sa kanilang inclusion criteria, wala na tayong pakialam at the end of the topic, the research. So provision number 18, physicians may not be involved in research study involving human subjects unless they are confident that the risks have been adequately assessed. So yun nga, sinasabi ko sa inyo, dapat yung risk na i-undergo natin, alam mo na siyang i-manage. For example, this vaccine trial, if ever magkaroon ng allergy, at least alam na namin kung paano gagamutin yung allergy or yung anaphylaxis, severe allergy. Ganun yon. Dapat meron kayong parang alternative plan. Dapat alam nyo na manageable, manage nyo na kung ano man yung mangyayari or potentially harmful effect dun sa ating trial. So for the vulnerable groups, so definitely may mga subjects tayo na vulnerable. Ibig sabihin, they could participate in your research, pero we have to consider many things. Kasi for example, the senior citizen, so mga vulnerable groups yan, or yung mga chemotherapy or yung immunocompromised. So kailangan i-take into consideration na mas mataas yung harm na pwedeng mangyari sa kanila. Even for general population, is safe naman. Diba? For younger patients, immunocompetent, pwedeng safe naman yung procedure or yung intervention. Pero kasi for those vulnerable groups, kailangan may special considerations. So provision number 19, some groups and individuals are particularly vulnerable and may have an increased likelihood of being wrong or incurring additional harm. All vulnerable groups and individuals should receive specifically considered protection. So, ibig sabihin, kung ang tingin nyo, yung patient natin ay, for example, elderly patient, ang tingin nyo ang risk niya is madapa siya or matumba siya within the medication, pwede sigurong wag na siya isali or baka meron siyang caregiver all the time. Diba? Meron siyang assistance o merong intervention that will counteract the harm of having a fall. So number 20, still for the vulnerable groups, medical research with vulnerable group is only justified if the research is responsive to the health needs and priorities of this group and the research cannot be carried out in a non-vulnerable group. So ibig sabihin, yun nga sabi ko, paano kung ang tinetest natin is yung side effect ng drug for elderly? Hindi mo naman pwedeng palitan yung age, di ba? Elderly talaga yung gusto kong i-trial dito sa ating hypertension medication. So, yun nga, ang gagawin na lang natin, we should be aware and ready for any possible harm. Kaya lang, syempre, yung harm should be manageable. Sabi ko nga sa'yo, a very significant amount or quality of harm should be considered, especially in ethical standards. So, kung itong intervention na to could pose death or very severe illness or debilitating condition, pwede natin hindi consider yung continuing with the trial. In addition, this group should stand to benefit from the knowledge, practices. So ibig sabihin, at the end of the study, sila pa rin yung magbe-benefit dun sa outcome ng ating study. So, scientific requirements. So, mabilis lang. Hindi ko kasi tinake lahat yung 37 na provision kasi some of them, you can go back and read them. Bibigay ko naman sa inyo yung link later kung saan pwede sila mahanap. So, about scientific requirements and research protocol, provision number 21, medical research involving human subject must conform to generally accepted scientific principle, be based on a thorough knowledge of scientific literature, other relevant sources of information, and adequate laboratory as appropriate before meron pang animal experimentation. So before natin i-subject ang human, hindi naman sa unfair tayo sa animal, syempre ang first test natin or trial should be done in animal experiment. The welfare of the animals must be respected. Yun yung sinasabi natin, di ba? Di ba nakikita nyo dun sa internet, may mga groups or society that are advocates of animal welfare. So kahit hayop yan, kailangan tingnan pa rin natin na hindi naman inhumane, so to speak, yung ating mga procedure na gagawin dun sa animals. So still on the scientific requirement, provision number 22, the design and performance of each research study involving human subjects must be clearly described and justified. So kapag, alam mo, pag nag-submit kayo ng protocol sa mga, for example, sa government, sa PCHRD, kung ano lang yung nakalagay sa protocol, yun lang dapat ang nandun sa research nyo. Walang alteration. If ever man na may alteration, babalik nyo ulit yun. Isasubmit nyo ulit sa PCHRD for evaluation kung pwedeng i-allow yung alteration, yung amendments dun sa inyong nasubmit na protocol. So still, dito na tayo sa important part, yung research ethics. So REC or Research Ethics Committee, provision number 23. The research protocol must be submitted for consideration, comment, guidance, and approval to the concerned ethics committee before the study begins. Hindi pa pwedeng mag-start ang study kung walang ethics review. Di ba? So this committee must be transparent in its functioning, must be independent. Actually, kung titingnan mo yung organizational chart ng ethics board, dapat hindi sila under ng president or ng highest rank dun sa office kasi magkakaroon tayo ng bias. So ideally, that's the setup. Pero depending on the capacity of the institution, pwede kasing naiiba yung setup. Pero as a rule of thumb, dapat talaga independent yung Research Ethics Committee para yung decision nila about certain protocol is non-biased. We must take into consideration the law and regulation of the country in which the research is to be performed. For example, meron tayong intervention na bawal pala sa Muslim. So, kailangan natin tingnan kung kinakailangan i-revise yung ating protocol to tailor fit yung ating subjects, including yung mga subjects na sa law nila, dapat na-abide pa rin natin yung law nila. The committee must have the right to monitor ongoing studies. Yun yung sinabi natin kanina, di ba? Na kailangan within the whole duration of the study, dapat on board kayo to check for any harm or any adverse event. No amendment to the protocol may be made without consideration and approval. So hindi pa pwede basta-basta na lang kayo nagpapalit sa protocol. Kasi magkakaroon kayo ng administrative problem kapag nakita lalo na kung may grant yan or may funding. So kung hindi kayo nag-abide dun sa protocol na sinubmit nyo, pwede kayong magkaroon ng damage or penalty. So about privacy and confidentiality, which is provision number 24, every precaution must be taken to protect the privacy of research subjects and the confidentiality of their personal information. Alam mo ngayon, very particular ang community with data privacy in as much as even with your ID, kami sa Medical City, yung ID namin, very limited na lang yung nakalagay na information. Walang nakalagay na mga PhilHealth ID number, SSS ID number, hindi na nilalagay ngayon doon. So ang nakalagay na lang doon is yung name, yung iyong position, tapos yung medical director at saka yung contacts na lang ng medical pag merong medical emergency. This is because of data privacy. So sobrang ang Medical City, very very strict kami with data privacy and confidentiality. So about informed consent. So ito yung sinasabi natin na kailangan we are knowledgeable of. Kasi hindi lahat ng consent is valid. 'Di ba? Importantly, in medical research, kailangan informed consent. So provision number 25, participation by individuals capable of giving informed consent as subjects in medical must be voluntary. So, although it may be appropriate to consult a family member or a community leader, no individual capable of giving, kung ikaw naman ay okay naman yung utak mo, nakakapag-decide ka naman, ikaw naman ay 18 and above or yung major age of decision making, kailangan ikaw pa din yung mag-decide if you will be accepting to be a subject in a research study. So, yung maliit na letter, medyo pinaliit ko na kasi hindi masyadong importante. Ang importante are the ones in red. There will be a right, so provision number 26, there will be a right to refuse to participate in a study or to withdraw consent to participate at any time without reprisal. So, ibig sabihin, pag nalaman ng pasyente or ng subject na feeling ko hindi ayoko nang ituloy yung subject, yung trial, pwede siyang mag-back out at any time. So, isasama natin yan dun sa mga dropouts. Then, informed consent, number 27. When seeking informed consent for participation in a research study, the physician must be particularly cautious if the potential subject is in dependent relationship. So, for example, dapat yung consent hindi galing sa boss. 'Di ba? Kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng bias. So, hindi ka pwedeng tumanggi kasi boss ko 'yun eh. 'Di ba? So, walang pressure na involved. So, potential subject is a dependent relationship with the physician or may consent under duress. Ibig sabihin, yung other term natin dyan is parang napilitan. 'Di ba? In such situation, the informed consent must be sought by an appropriately qualified individual who is completely independent of this relationship. So still on the informed consent, number 29 na tayo. So malapit na tayong matapos dun sa Helsinki Declaration. So when a potential research subject who is deemed incapable of giving informed consent is able to give assent to decisions about participating in research, the physician must seek the assent in addition to the consent of legally authorized. So ito is about kung sino yung pwedeng mag-consent dun sa patient na hindi pa pwedeng mag-consent. 'Di ba? The potential subject's dissent. So kung choice ko na ang mag-consent sa akin si Dr. Alvin, so pwede talagang si Dr. Alvin yung mag-consent on my behalf. So informed consent, provision number 30, research involving subjects who are physically or mentally incapable of giving consent, for example, unconscious patients, may be done only if the physical or mental condition that prevents giving informed consent is a necessary characteristic of the research group. In such circumstances, the physician must seek informed consent from the legally authorized representative. For example, yun nga, patient nyo is unconscious, kailangan talaga meron kayong advance directive before taking the informed consent. Dapat meron kayong, before mag-start yung trial, as much as possible, meron kayong advance order from the next of kin or yung kanyang authorized representative. So, continuation, if no such representative is available, and if the research cannot be delayed, the study may proceed without informed consent provided that the specific reason for involving the subject with a condition that renders them unable to give informed consent have been stated. So, isasama nyo pa rin siya, pero i-inform nyo dun sa final paper na although hindi kami nakakuha ng informed consent with this type of patient, we already consulted the REC, the Research Ethics Committee, kasi kailangan namin isama yung data na yon. And upon approval of your Research Ethics Committee, pwede naman nating isama. So consent to remain in the research must be obtained as soon as possible from the subject or a legally authorized representative. So importante talaga, meron kayong contact or approval from a legally authorized representative. Sa ibang trial, talagang power of attorney yung hinihingi. Hindi enough yung yung waiver lang kasi sa medical ethics, kahit may waiver yung subject, especially if hindi niya masyadong naintindihan yung procedure, ang susundin pa rin natin na law is the higher law of the country. So still in the informed consent, provision number 32, for medical research using identifiable human material, for example, may specimen kang ilalagay, di ba? Na ilalagay sa biobanks, sa repositories, physicians must seek informed consent for its collection, storage, or reuse. For example, gagamitin pala yung blood ko para gamitin sa blood typing ng ibang mga subject. Kailangan specific yun dun sa consent. Na gagamitin namin, i-store namin yung serum or yung sample, yung biological sample for future use. Dapat meron talagang nakalagay in writing. There may be exceptional situations where consent would be impossible or impracticable to obtain for such research. So minsan kapag hindi talaga makuha yung consent, di-decide pa rin yan ng Research Ethics Committee kung itutuloy pa rin yung collection or storage ng biological specimen. In such situation, the research may be done only after or consideration. Di ba? Dapat talaga very competent and very active yung ating Research Ethics Committee. Ngayon, ano naman yung ethics about using a placebo? Remember, di ba? Pwede natin, especially in clinical trials clinical trials third level or level 3, minsan gumagamit tayo ng mga placebo, di ba? Ano ba ang sabi ng medical ethics about using a placebo? So number 33, provision number 33, the benefits, risk, burden, and effectiveness of a new intervention must be tested against those of the best proven intervention except in the following circumstances. Dapat daw talaga yung ating i-compare sa ating experimental intervention should be the gold standard, 'di ba? Pero ngayon, ano daw yung pwedeng gamitan ng placebo? 1, when no proven intervention exists, the use of placebo or no intervention is acceptable. So yun ang ginagamit natin. Pwede daw gamitin yung placebo kapag wala pa talagang gold standard. So, isa pang situation where you can use the placebo is where for compelling and scientifically sound methodological reasons that the use of any intervention less effective than the best proven one, the use of the placebo. Actually, ginagamit na ngayon to ngayon eh. I forgot yung minimeasure na ratio or yung parameter kapag ang available for comparison is the best available other than the gold standard. So meron tayong ganun eh. I forgot the outcome measure pero meron tayong ginagamitan na ngayon because of this pandemic. Meron tayong ginagamitan na i-compare natin yung ating intervention sa best available kahit hindi siya gold standard. Pero hindi pa rin natin siya i-report as the gold standard. Okay? Post-trial. So after a trial, hindi natin iiwanan syempre yung ating study. So until after trial, meron pa ring responsibility ang ethics. So number 34, in advance of a clinical trial, sponsors, researchers, and host country governments should make provision for post-trial access for all participants who still need an intervention as identified in the, for example, merong effect yung intervention even after your trial. For example, ang tinatrial natin is medication for diabetes. Pwede pa rin siyang magkaroon ng hypoglycemia or mababang sugar even after the trial kasi yung medication is still an effect dun sa patient. For example, yung ating tinetest is an injectable cholesterol medication. Ngayon, yung effect ng injectable can persist even 3 months after the trial. So dapat meron pa rin kayong provision that will monitor your subjects even after the trial. This information must also be disclosed to the participants during the informed consent process. So sasabihin nyo yon clearly before mag-start yung ating trial. Then yung ating susunod na chapter is about registration, publication, and dissemination of results. So alos patapos na tayo dun sa Helsinki. So provision number 35, every research study involving human subjects must be registered in a publicly accessible database. So dapat sa government, meron tayong mga registry of clinical trials. So pwede niyo siyang i-register doon. So sa PCHRD, later on papakita ko sa inyo yung website ng PCHRD. Pwede niyo i-upload yung inyong trial para ma-recognize siya ng DOST ng PCHRD na may ongoing trial kayong ginagawa. So provision number 36, researchers, authors, sponsors, editors, and publishers all have ethical obligation with regard to the publication and dissemination of the research result. Researchers have a duty to make publicly available. Kaya nga, di ba, kapag nag-research kayo, you go for publication. Kasi that's the only way to maximize the benefit of your research. Actually, kaya ka naman nag-research, di ba, para malaman ng stakeholder kung ano yung nalaman nyo dun sa research nyo. So, importante talaga to make an effort to publicize or publish your work. So, for unproven intervention in clinical practice, so may mga intervention kasi na hindi pa naman talaga tested or approved for intervention. So, in the treatment of an individual patient where proven interventions do not exist, excuse me, or other known interventions have been ineffective, the physician, after seeking expert advice with informed consent from the patient or a legally authorized representative, may use an unproven intervention if in the physician's judgment still offers saving life, reestablishing health, or alleviating suffering. So, pwede pa rin. So, ano pa rin? Risk versus benefit. So, the decision of the physician, kaya nga ang kinukuha nating mga trialist, di ba, ay yung mga experience or yung mga expert dun sa field. So that in the event of ganito nga ang nangyari, na merong unproven intervention, pwede niyang i-utilize provided na the benefit will outweigh the risk. This is ano naman, yung component of Research Ethics Committee. This is based on your WHO criteria, the World Health Organization. So marami na namang standard yon, pero I'll walk you through yung mga importante lang na standard. So for example, this one, standard number 2, what is the composition of your Research Ethics Committee? The REC or the Research Ethics Committee is constituted according to a charter or other document that establishes the manner in which the members and the chair will be appointed. The appointing entity ensures that the REC has a multidisciplinary, multi-sectoral membership, that its composition is gender balanced, that it reflects the social, cultural diversity of the communities from which research participants are most likely to be drawn, and that it includes individuals with backgrounds relevant to the areas of research the committee is most likely to review. So kung health intervention yan, syempre as much as possible, magsasama ka ng healthcare professional. So napakadaming consideration, nakita nyo, even gender balance, social and cultural diversity. So kung yung intervention na yan, kasama yung ating mga indigenous member of the community, dapat kasama pa rin sila, may representations pa rin sila. Then factors to consider in establishing your Research Ethics Committee. Members include with scientific expertise, so kailangan merong expertise, including behavioral or social science. So tayo yun, minsan yung mga teachers sa non-medical field, healthcare providers, members who have expertise in legal matters. So minsan sinasama din natin yung mga lawyer, yung ating legal counsel, di ba? And lay people whose primary role is to share their insights. So pwede tayong maglagay ng isa o dalawa na layman na member ng Research Ethics Committee to get their insights about the communities from which the participants are likely to be drawn. Pwede naman kasi yung team is temporary. For example, for that certain study, ito yung group ng Research Ethics Committee. So isasama niyo yung isa sa mga representation ng community kung saan tayo kukuha ng subject. Lay people and other members whose primary background is not in health research with human participants are appointed insufficient members kasi kailangan, minsan nga kung kailangan 2 o 3 sila kasi dapat mas marami sila kesa dun sa mga members na medical para hindi sila ma-intimidate. Another consideration, in order to enhance independence, committee membership includes members who are not affiliated with the organization, the funder o yung ating nagfa-fund, or conduct research reviewed by REC. So talagang kailangan independent. Committees are large enough to ensure the multiple perspectives are brought into discussion. To this end, quorum requirements provide that at least 5 people, including at least 1 lay member and 1 non-affiliated, ito more of specifics na to eh. Pag nagde-deliberate na kayo, kailangan daw at least 5, tapos isa doon ay non-affiliated at isa doon ay galing doon sa lay member. So resources. So syempre, bago ka magkaroon ng committee, dapat daw meron kayong resources, 'di ba? Including staff, facilities, and financial resources. Actually, kung mag-a-apply kayo ng any level of ethics ERB sa PHC HRD, talagang kasama sa requirement, dapat meron kayong physical office, meron kayong staff na talagang dedicated for REC, at saka meron silang materials, meron silang supplies. So kasama daw dito, example, yung computers, yung mga papel, telephone, photocopier, even shredding. Bakit importante yung shredding machine? This is more for data privacy, di ba? Tapos kailangan din meron silang capacity to store data na mararami. Kasi syempre, ano yan eh, laging madaming paper ang research, di ba? Adequate financial resources, so napag-usapan natin yun kanina na the institution should invest on the REC. So ano ba yung mission ng Institutional Review Board? The mission of the Institutional Review Board is to review research proposals in which there are human participants to ensure ethical research that A, balances potential risk and benefits. So risk-benefit pa din. B, offers protection to participants from unnecessary harm. Na-discuss na natin yan kanina. C, offers proportional compensation. Na-discuss na rin natin yan kanina. D, the person is charged of the research is qualified scientist. So na-discuss na rin natin kanina yan. And E, informed consent and other forms are readable, are understandable, and ensure voluntary participation. So dapat malinaw yung nasa consent nyo na ito ang mangyayari sa'yo, ito ang mga pwedeng mangyari sa'yo, at ito po yung plano natin if ever na may mangyaring harm sa inyo. So independence, gaya ng sinasabi ko, kaya nga di ba as much as possible, ang Research Ethics Committee should stand independent from the general organizational committee. Standard number 4 in the WHO, policies governing the REC include mechanism to ensure independence of the REC's operation in order to protect decision-making from influence. So bawal talaga siyang ma-influence. Such policies provide that a minimum that REC members, including the chair, remove themselves from the review of any research in which they are close. So kailangan talaga yung conflict of interest. So dapat hindi kasama siya sa magre-review kung asawa niya, anak niya, estudyante niya na close sa kanya, or minentor niya, hindi siya dapat kasama dun sa magre-review. Pwede mo namang i-decline eh. Sa PCP, kapag meron ka nakikitang conflict of interest, i-declare mo lang dun sa group para hindi namin ikaw isama dun sa mga mag-evaluate ng paper. So again, for the sake of independence, the REC membership includes at least 1 person with no connection to the organization. So researchers, sponsors, and funders may attend an REC meeting to answer questions about the research protocol and associated documents, but they are not present when doing a decision. So hanggang dun lang sila sa deliberation. Yung decision making, dapat Research Ethics Committee lang yon. Senior decision makers of the entity creating the REC or any or of any organization that sponsors or conducts the research reviewed by the REC do not serve as members of the REC or its chair. Kasi nga, bias. The entity that establishes the REC ensures that the REC members are protected by retaliation. So, ibig sabihin, kapag ano man ang nangyari dun sa review nyo, dun sa inyong ni-review na paper, hindi kayo pa pwedeng ma-blame or mabigyan ng retaliation because dun sa decision nyo na i-refuse i-go yung research study. So training, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. Standard number 5, training on ethical aspect of health-related research with human participants on how ethical considerations apply to different types of research on how REC conducts its review of research is provided to REC members when they join the committee and periodically during their committee service. So, merong requirement ang REC na training. Actually, before kayo magkaroon ng REC, dapat may training na. Which is usually, ito ay binibigay din ng PCHRD, yung FREB. So, ito yung mga training usually. Ito kasi pang-international eh. So kailangan daw meron kayong Council for International. Usually, ito yung mga training. International Organization of Medical Societies, or siguro sa Philippines, ang equivalent niyan is yung medical organization or yung professional organizations that you belong. International Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research, or usually ang nakikita lang natin madalas is yung GCP, kaya ko siya highlight in red, yung Good Clinical Practice. Before ka mag-trial, specifically for drug or any intervention, kailangan updated yung Good Clinical Practice mo. So, papakita ko kayo ng sample ng Good Clinical Practice outline, kung ano yung mga subjects na kailangan yung i-take para magkaroon kayo ng Good Clinical Practice Certificate. Another one in red, basic aspect of research methodology. Ito yung ginagawa sa inyo ngayon ni Dr. Alvin. Kaya dapat meron kayong research methodology and design training. This is my GCP or Good Clinical Practice Certificate. So nakita niyo yung mga subject, institutional review boards, informed consent, confidentiality and privacy, participant safety and adverse event, quality assurance, about making yung research protocol, documentation and record keeping, research misconduct, roles and responsibility. So yan lahat yung course na kukuhanin ninyo para magkaroon kayo ng basic GCP, Good Clinical Practice. So about authorship, let's go to authorship. So malapit na tayong matapos, few slides to go. Authorship credit should be based on 1, substantial contribution to the concept and design or acquisition of data or analysis, interpretation of data. 2, drafting of the article or revising it critically, important intellectual content. And 3, final approval of the version should be published. So dapat lahat yan. 1, 2, 3 should be met para maging author ka ng isang paper. Dapat lahat yan ha. We discourage yung mga tinatawag na gift, yung niririgalo mo, gift authorship. Ay, kasi kabarkada ko si Doc Ome. So isasama ko na siya dun sa research. Tsaka pinamerienda naman niya kami nung naggagawa kami ng research. So hindi na natin ino-authorize o ini-encourage yung mga gift authorship. Dapat ma-meet niya yung criteria na 3 na to. How about co-author? Paano ka daw? Can I be a co-author? Sure. But only if, 1, you contributed substantially to the research. So from the start, alam mo na kung bakit ginawa yung research. Number 2, wrote or revised all or part of the manuscript. Ganyan yung ginagawa namin. So hati-hati kami. O ikaw sa discussion, ikaw sa interpretation of result, ikaw sa statistical analysis, ikaw sa ganyan. Then, approve and final. Technically, pwede ka lang maging co-author kapag na-comply mo na same criteria with the primary author. Ito is based from the ICMJE, International Committee for Medical Journal Educator ba ito? ICMJE. Actually, ito lang yung most widely used na criteria for authorship and research ethics. So about plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the act of passing off someone else's idea. So idea pa lang plagiarism na. Thoughts, pictures, theories, words, or stories as your own. So inaangkin mo. So minsan kasi hindi mo alam, inangkin mo pala yung data kasi hindi mo siya sinay. Di ba? If the researcher plagiarizes the work of others, they are bringing into question their integrity, ethics, and trustworthiness. So, ibig sabihin, naka-question na yung integrity mo kapag ka nag-plagiarize ka. Kaya importante sa medical research community ang plagiarism. In addition, plagiarism is both an illegal act and punishable. So, it is not only a penalty. So, this is an illegal act. So, pwede ka talagang masu sa court. So what are the advice of Northwestern University on how you will not be plagiarizing your work? One, quotes another person actual words, either oral or written. So i-quote mo siya, quotation. Other way is to paraphrase another person's words, either oral or written. So pwede mo raw i-paraphrase. Uses another person's idea. So ipaparaphrase mo yung uses another person's idea, opinion, or theory, or borrows facts. Anything na binaro mo, statistics, anything, illustration, dapat lalagyan mo ng citation or isa-cite mo naman siya dun sa work mo. Paano ba kasi mag-cite? Actually, that's another topic kasi eh. So if you look at a journal, kapag ka nag-browse na kayo sa mga Google search or yung mga search engine, pag nakita nyo na yung journal, usually sa gilid, meron na kayong makikita na parang cite nakalagay. So, i-click nyo lang yon, then makakopy na dun sa inyong cursor yung work, paano mo siya tawag dito, isa-cite. So, eventually siguro you will be taught paano kayo mag-cite. So, merong process kasi sa pag tinignan yung journal, lalo na pag nasa internet kayo, makikita nyo sa gilid usually nakalagay citation or cite. I-click nyo lang yon. Iba-ibang format yung citation doon. Merong APA, merong iba-ibang standard. So makita nyo lang doon sa gilid. Then to avoid plagiarism, cite all ideas and information that is not your own and or is not common knowledge. So pag hindi alam ng tao, hindi mo gawa yun or gawa mo yun, dapat isa-cite mo. Always use quotation mark at the beginning of the paraphrase section. Show that what comes next is someone else's idea. So sasabihin niya pa rin kung according to ganito, di ba? At the end of the paraphrase section, place the proper citation. Yun nga, kailangan lagay mo yung usually author tsaka year, yun ang nilalagay. Pero there are several ways of how you cite yung mga journals niyo. Then misconduct. Let's go now to very shortly to misconduct. So research misconduct is defined as fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research or in reporting research results. So ano ba yung formal definition nitong mga to? So fabrication is making up a data or result and recording or reporting them. So gumagawa ka talaga as in kaya nga fabrication, di ba? Umimbento ka ng numbers o yung outcome. Falsification, on the other hand, is manipulating research materials, equipments, and processes, or changing or omitting data. So ito naman, tinanggal mo yung data na ayaw mo makita. Di ba? For example, ang pangit pala ng harm nitong vaccine na to. So tinanggal mo yung data about harm. So falsification yon. And plagiarism, as we have discussed a while ago, is the appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, and results. Research misconduct does not include honest error. Mahirap kasing i-justify yung tinatawag na honest error. So, pinapatawad naman ng ethics yung honest error. Pero ang hirap i-justify ng honest error. So, this is yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, PCHRD. Ito yung checklist for the proposal requirement. And one of the most important part of the requirement is ethics clearance. So dapat talaga may ethical review. Bukod pa dun sa technical review board, meron pa kayong research ethics review board. And this is yung detailed research proposal. So pinutol ko na lang. So marami yan, maraming provision. Pero you look at number 17, kailangan talaga ng ethical and biosafety clearance. Kasama kasi yung environment, di ba? Kaya may biosafety. So if you plan to be accredited by the FREB or Philippine Health Research and ethics board. For level 1 accreditation, ang kanilang function is to review all types of researches except clinical trials required for FDA registration of new drugs. So level 1, all researches except those who are FDA registration of new drugs. For level 2, accredited REC reviews all types of researches except clinical trials, so pareho pa din. Diba? And level 3, accredited REC reviews all types of researches including studies required in publication for marketing of food, drugs, and devices. So pinakamataas na accreditation is level 3. Ngayon, I will give you a checklist kung ano yung requirements for level 1. Pero yung level 2 and level 3, I'll just give you the link so that you can browse through it kasi sobrang haba. Ayan yung level 1. So, kailangan daw meron tayong cover letter, copy of the institutional issuance on the following. 1, statement of research involving human participants, constitution, function, and responsibilities of REC, and down the line. So, yan yung listahan ng requirements for level 1. Ayan pa. So, meron kayong mga FREB form number 1.1, 1.4, 1.2, 1.2. All REC who fails to achieve level 2 accreditation within 3 years. So, dapat within 3 years, makapag-apply na kayo for level 2. So, this is the PCHRD link. So, actually, kahit i-google nyo lang PCHRD website, makukuha nyo na yung link. And in summary, we have shared basic components of and principles of research ethics, the components of your research ethics committee, and navigated you through very quickly sa PCHRD requirements on ethics review board organization. So these are my sources. Thank you for your virtual attention. So mabilis lang. Actually, if you want more detailed discussion, I can guide you through kasi it's around 60 pages kasi ang research ethics eh. So kung sasama ko lahat yung 60, baka nakatulog na kayo lahat. So binigay ko na lang kayo ng rundown, yung parang overall view of research ethics kasi sobrang haba kung pag-uusapan natin in one sitting yung research ethics. So any comment or question, we will try to answer them as much as we could.
I think, Doc Omy, you were able to provide them a very comprehensive discussion about ethical conduct in during research. Yeah. So the floor now, the platform now is open for any questions or comments or clarification.
Sorry guys medyo busy talaga yung slide kasi this is about rules and regulation and this is a law. So talagang medyo wordy siya, tsaka medyo verbatim siya eh. So sorry kung medyo toxic yung mga slide. Wala namang better way to discuss ethics kaysa sa ganitong paraan. Anyways, I presume na most of you are doing already your papers.
They're in their stage of writing their papers. Some of them are already in the proposal defense stage.
Yun na kayo yung mga chosen one, mga brave ones, 'di ba? Ang research kasi is not for everyone, 'di ba? So kayo yung mga matatapang, nahaharap sa challenge. Ako, I look into research works as always a challenge kasi tingin ko hindi ka naman talaga mag-grow if you don't go out of your comfort zone. Alam mo, makagawa lang kayo ng isang research, parang alam nyo na yung system. Alam nyo na the whole system. Especially if you publish one research, sobrang mainganyo pa kayo gumawa ng mas madami.
That's right. So can we have any comments or clarifications from our students, MAED students?
None, sir.
None. Wow.
And actually, yun pala, to add lang, even yung plagiarism, pwede kayong magkaroon ng tinatawag na self-plagiarism. So for example, may dati na kayong research, kayo din yung author, pero gagamitin nyo siya sa pangalawang research nyo, isa-cite nyo pa rin. Kasi hindi pa pwede, ibang idea na yun eh. So you're acting as a different researcher dun sa una mong research. So isa-cite nyo pa rin yung una nyong research. Or else, plagiarism pa din yon. We call it self-plagiarism. So pag nagbasa kayo ng journal, di ba nag-google kayo or search engine, tingnan nyo na sa gilid, makikita nyo cite or citation. Pwede nyo siyang i-click. Tapos makikita nyo doon, paano, bibigyan kanya ng format kung ano yung hinihinging format nung journal na pagsusulatan mo kung paano sila mag-citation. So naka-format na siya, hindi mo na siya itatype, ika-copy mo na lang siya.
The Meycauayan College right now is utilizing APA format. The APA.
Ayun, APA. Kasi naman yung widely used APA, American Psychiatric Association. So, nandun nakalagay APA, tapos nandun ano mo na lang, i-copy and paste mo na lang yung format. Kasi sila na yung magpa-format. So, di ba, pag try nyo mamaya, mag-search kayo ng journal, then sa right side, nakita nyo citation, authorship, ganyan-ganyan, PDF, ganyan-ganyan. Makita nyo, click nyo lang yung citation. Makikita nyo na yung mga format, ika-copy nyo na lang yun.
Alright, so if there are no more questions, mukhang clear na clear ang discussion ni Dr. Romel. Punong ba?
So, yun. Pasensya na. Medyo toxic yung slides.
Okay lang. At least they have a taste of what true ethics in research means, no? Kasi ang ating speaker ay talaga namang babad sa research at talaga namang pagdating sa ethics yan ay maraming alam yan sa medical ethics.
Actually, Sir Alvin, if I may share, di ba ongoing yung trial na sinare ko sa'yo? Yung aming COVID study. Ilang beses kami nag-revise doon. Ilang beses namin ni-revise yun per PCHRD consumption. So, siguro mga 4 times kami nag-revise. So, hindi pa pwede kasi na yung protocol, i-revise nyo na hindi alam ng funder. So, dapat i-approve pa rin nila yung protocol kahit na nag-amend kayo. For example, isang sentence lang yung binago nyo doon. Idadagdag na namin lahat ng age ganito. Kailangan i-amendment. Isasubmit nyo ulit yun as amendment.
That's right. Kaya mga schools ngayon, kadalasan, nire-require na rin ng ethics review board.
Actually, ang hirap, sir, mag-establish. I'm doing my best na magkaroon ng IRB ang Bulacan Medical Center. Kaya lang, yun nga, madaming requirements. Saka kailangan may office.
Oo.
Hindi namin alam kung saan namin lalagay yung office ng REC.
Oo. May head yan, tapos merong mga members. So, any question? Wala na? Para hindi na natin maabalas. Alam ko si Doc Ome ay, pinaka-isapan ko lang yan to talk about the topic. Busy-busy yan.
Pero ang kagandahan naman kay Sir Alvin, hindi siya short notice. So, way long time ago pa, nagsabi niya sa akin. Kaya na-prepare ko na yung slides.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Jessril, may tanong ka? Jessril?
Any clarification? Something in mind bothering you?
Wala po, sir. Wala po.
Alright. Kung walang tanong, can we give Doc Ome a virtual clap para sa napakagandang presentation about ethics? Pa-virtual clap naman kasi hindi tayo.
Thank you.
Hindi niya maririnig yung clap nyo kaya
mamaya TikTok na lang tayo, Sir Alvin, para sa Meycauayan. Meycauayan University ba? Colleges. Meycauayan University. Colleges.
Meycauayan College.
Hopefully makavisit ako pag pwede na tayong mag face-to-face.
Sure.
At the moment, no?
Sure, no problem. So I think their silence and their claps would mean that they are satisfied with the discussion that you've given them, that you provided them, Doc Ome.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, at this point, I'd like to personally thank you and the students of Meycauayan College for having another intellectual discussion in the area of research. Kasi ang research, napakadaming topics niyan. And ethics in research is just one of them.
Actually, kahit gaano kaganda yung research nyo, pag hindi pumasa sa REC, hindi pa rin makakalusot. So, kailangan talaga REC talaga yung una nating i-consider.
That's right. Okay. So,
okay, thank you.
Dear students,
Alvin.
Yes.
Pwede mo pa-picture kay Doc Romel.
Okay, Doc Romel, pa-picture daw sa'yo. Okay, everybody open your camera para maganda naman ng...
Mas maganda nga yung open lahat. Pwede ko ba i-share yung yung ating screenshot?
Sure, no problem, no problem. Wala na mga Alma, okay sa kanila.
Ha? Baka kung meron kayong mga kontrata sa ABS-CBN, mga ganyan.
O baka meron kayong pinagtataguan na Bombay. Malam.
May mga inaanak kayo. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Ay, wait lang. Ayan. Tinanggal ko
1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Second panel. May second panel pala tayo. Okay.
Second panel, all right.
1, 2, 3. Share ko na lang kay Sir Alvin para mabigay sa inyo yung screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
All right. Kung wala ng tanong, we would like to say thank you again. Thank you once again, Dr.
Thank you po.
Thank you
po.
Ay, galingan nyo sa mga papers nyo.
Hope to see you again, Dr.
Salamat po, Doc Romel.
Most welcome. Thank you, Sir Alvin. See you around.
Thank you po.
Yung pang Jollibee mo, ipapadala ko na lang. Salamat po. Thank you, everyone. And I think that would be all for today. And we will have another session next Saturday, no? Pasensya na kayo, napaaga lang ng konti kasi...
Mamaya po, wala po.
Chappy, Jezreel.
Sir, wala na po tayong meeting mamaya pong hapon.
Wala na.
Wala na po na.
Next Saturday na ulit.
Thank you po.
Kasi ongoing din
Thank you,
ongoing din ang checking ko ng paper. Nandito ang mga students ng ibang EDOC 2.8. Nagpapacheck sila ng paper nila. No? Alright. Kung wala nang tanong, hope to see you again next time. And ingat.
Thank you po.
Bye-bye.
Thank you po, Doc.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Kit niyo po ngayon, Doc.
Ano daw? Sige, narinig ko. Sige.
Kit niyo daw po ngayon, Doc.
Wala akong pera. Wala akong panlibre. Okay, see you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you po.